Hi. So I know you've come to this video to watch one thing and one thing only, which is how to create a performance max campaign. And I'm going to jump into that in just a moment. But I need to quickly explain, why you should be using this campaign and, for what businesses it makes a lot of sense for. So PMax pretty much puts all of the Google channels into one campaign. So every type of Google placement that you can think of is inside of PMax. And it's really useful for, brands that are trying to put more control into Google's hands just so they can allocate things with the amount of data that they have, as Google, right? So there's a lot of utility for this, and I believe that this will be useful for a lot of brands, especially e-commerce brands. So I'm going to jump straight into how to create a PMax campaign right now. Let's do it. Okay, so usually everyone will have a dashboard that looks like this. And all you need to do is click. This is a dummy account, by the way. And all you need to do is click New Campaign, and then choose to create a campaign without a goals guidance. Usually you'd go for things like sales, but in this case we're gonna do this, and you would obviously see all of the campaign types that Google has. So search, PMax, display, shopping, and all of that. But in this case, we're using Performance Max. And then obviously you should have your conversion goals set up. So in this case, purchases. And I'm sure there'll be other conversion goals that are valuable to your business that you would like to use. But in this case, I'm tracking just purchases as I'm theoretically running an e-com brand. And then I'm going to hit continue on this. And then I'll name my campaign. I'll say Dummy Performance Max campaign. Okay, and then I hit continue. So in this case, it's asking me to choose my bidding, and I want to focus on conversions every time and every time. In this case, I will not set a TCPA yet until because it's a new campaign, I want to allow it to collect a lot of data before I then set a TCPA. There's a couple of benchmarks which I will share to look at for when to set your TCPA. But at the start of running a PMax campaign in your account, you can leave it as conversions and do not set a TCPA for now. I'm also not going to use the customer acquisition feature because it's been tested on a lot of accounts and it doesn't really work. It doesn't do what it promises to do. I'm not sure why, but I'm not a fan of using this feature, so I'm going to leave this unchecked. And then I hit next, and then I'll select the country that I'm trying to target. So let's say I want to target the United States. I'd select that. Let's say I want to add a couple of more countries. So let's say Canada. I'll target that as well. Let's say the UK. Target that as well. And then languages, I'll leave that blank as well. I'm gonna just leave this as English, and I'm gonna tamper with anything here. Automatically created assets. I'm gonna uncheck this because I want to give it assets by myself. So I will uncheck all of this because I don't want them picking irrelevant contents to the kind of ads that I want to run. So I'm gonna uncheck this. And then more settings, let's see. Yeah, I don't need to change anything here. Add schedule all the start and end dates. I don't need to change that. So I'll leave that. And then I'll hit next. So we're at the asset group level where things get interesting. So my basic rule of thumb for PMax is if you have at least $250 budget a day that you want to spend, create as many asset groups as you can. I think the number is about 100 that you can create, but you can, if you have a substantial amount of budget, you can create as many asset groups as you can, just so that you can get as much out of your PMax campaign. And then you should also, as a rule, is to segment your asset groups by product categories. So let's say you're an e-com brand So let's say you sell, you're an e-com brand that sells, you sell shoes, clothes, hair, lashes, makeup, and all of that in one. So what you need to do in this case, because you have different collections of those, is to segment your asset groups by those collections. So if you have shoes, you have a shoes asset group, you have a clothes asset group, you have a makeup asset group, you have a lashes asset group, you have a hair asset group, like that. So all you need to do is just create as much as the number of collections that you have. So if you have 20 collections, you should have at least 20 asset groups targeting each of those categories. Now, another way that you can expand on your asset groups is to then layer in audience signals. So if you have one collection, like I said, with that asset group, you can then mix in a couple of audience signals to then differentiate that asset groups. So let's say you have 20 collections, and then you have each collection having 3 audience signals differently. So that's 20 times 3. That means you should have at least 60 asset groups inside of that campaign, it goes back to the idea of creating as many asset groups as you can, just so you can give, you can use a lot of signals for you to get more conversions out of the campaign. So in this case, because this is a dummy campaign, so I'm just going to work with as small as I can. So I'll name this. So I'm running theoretically a hair extension brand. So let's say we sell clippings, tapings, and all of that. So in this case, I will do tapings as a group. I'm going to say audience signal 1. And I'll show you how to create an audience signal in just a moment. And then I'll hit the name up there, and then so let's say, so I have that already, and I'm gonna put a random URL. So let's say dummy hairbrand.com, and then obviously you should add your images. So in this case, you had up to 20 images, you had up to 5 logos, you added videos, up to 5 as well, and then you add your headlines, your long headlines, your description, your business name, your site links, and all of that. And I believe people who have run search campaigns in the past should know how to navigate this. So just put in all your assets and give it as much as you can, or as much as you have, into the asset group, and then create your audience signal. So sometimes you don't need to create an audience signal, you can leave it as broad as possible, but then there are times where you want to target specific things or specific people. So you create an audience signal by doing this. So in this case, let's say I want to create an audience signal of my website visitors. Let's say I want to retarget these people. So it's a dummy account, so there probably will not be much segments in here. So I will then go to my data, okay, and I will hit website visitors. So it's not allowing me go forward with this. So it's obviously because I don't have all of the conversions. So usually you would simply just come here and choose your website visitors, and then add that to the campaign. If you want to layer in interest and detailed demographics, you can go ahead, but because this is a retargeting asset group, I'm just going to leave this as website visitors. But I can also obviously come here and add affinity and e-market segments, just so you can get more signals to then give Google to target for you. All right. And then if you want to change your demographics, you can obviously come here and do that. So if you want to target just male, you can leave that. Actually add the unknowns, because sometimes there can be more males inside of this campaign, so I leave that checked as well. And if I want to change the age group, I come here and change that as well. So that's if you want to restrict the targeting to just one particular set of people. So once you have that audience signal created, you hit save, and you should have that populate here. So that means you have your asset group created, you have your audience signal layered in, and then you hit next. So for my budget, so let's say I have a $250 budget. I put that in there, and then I hit next. And then finally, I can check and see if everything is set up correctly. So it's checking for errors, and I'm just gonna wait for a minute. Okay, so it says that I have asset group issues, so I'm gonna check into those. So, oh, okay, it says I need to add an audience signal. I mean, I'm not able to add that now because I don't have the conversion goals and all set up in this account. But in your case, if you have it set up, you can just breathe through this quickly. So for it to allow me publish, I'm just gonna remove it actually. So let's see. Okay, in fact, it's removed itself. So I'll put 250. Then I hit next. So it actually needs me to put a couple of assets. I thought I could just run through without adding the assets. But I'll choose this. This is just a random image. Don't choose save. I think that should do it. So I hit save on this as well. Logos are identical. Need to remove. Hit save on this. And then at least 3 outlines. I'm just gonna put random stuff in here. I just want to, I mean, for your obviously your brand, you shouldn't be putting things like this. I just want to get through this. So I'll put this as well. And then I hit next. Next. I added those already. Okay. Okay, so everything seems right. Everything doesn't seem right because there's so many placeholder stuff in here, but that's the whole idea. And then you hit publish, and then your campaign should go into review and stuff like that. So the basic, I'd say, idea for the PMax campaign that you're going to create for your ecom brand specifically is to create one campaign with as many asset groups as you can, give it enough budget, give it enough of your assets, as many assets as you can get, to images, videos, and all of that, and then run it for 6 weeks, see how it performs before making any decision on what you should then do next. Now, another trick, which I'm going to put a video up here that you look at, is to create your PMax without the feed. So in this case, you should obviously have your feed attached to the campaign from your merchant center, and then add all of your assets. But there's also another hack with PMax that you can do, and I'll put that video somewhere up here, and you can pretty much force PMax to only serve on shopping. So all of the assets that you've just given them will serve on every channel. So search, display, shopping, Gmail, Discover, like everywhere will serve there. But for you to sometimes want to force things in shopping, you can create a PMax campaign with just a feed and no other assets, so it would only serve in shopping. Now, I believe I have been able to explain to you how to create a PMax campaign, and I would love to hear your comments if you've been running PMax and how it's going for you. Bye.